What happens when the world's most powerful nation threatens to annex territory from its closest allies? It sounds like something from a history book, not 2025. But that's exactly what's unfolding right now with Greenland, Canada, and the United States. In this video, we're diving deep into one of the most alarming geopolitical shifts happening in real time. We'll explore how President Trump's territorial ambitions are backfiring spectacularly, why China is winning without firing a single shot, and how the Federal Reserve is caught in the crosshairs of a political vendetta. This isn't just about maps and borders, it's about the future of American power, global alliances, and your economic security. Let's break down what's really happening behind the headlines. First, let's talk about Greenland. President Trump has been vocal about acquiring this massive Arctic territory from Denmark. The price tag? A staggering $700 billion according to recent estimates. But here's the twist that almost nobody is discussing. The United States already has everything it needs in Greenland. Since 1951, America has maintained defense treaties with Denmark that allow full military presence on the island. We have bases there. We have troops there. We can expand those operations anytime we want, all under existing agreements that cost us nothing. So when Trump claims this is about national security, renowned economist Professor Steve Hanke from Johns Hopkins University calls it exactly what it is, a phony premise. And he's right. National security has become what Samuel Johnson called the refuge of scoundrels, an argument that shuts down rational debate because who can argue against protecting the nation? But here's the problem with invoking national security. It creates complete opacity. No one can challenge it, no one can see the data, and there's no transparency. It's the ultimate conversation ender, which is precisely why it's used. The real question isn't whether we need Greenland for security. We already have that. The real question is, what's the actual motivation? Is it minerals, strategic positioning against China, or something else entirely? Whatever it is, threatening a NATO ally with military action to acquire their territory is unprecedented in modern Western diplomacy. But Greenland isn't the only ally being threatened. Let's look north at what's happening with Canada, because this is where Trump's strategy is producing the exact opposite of what he intended. Canada has been a steadfast American ally for centuries. The world's longest undefended border, massive trade partnerships, military cooperation, all of that is now being jeopardized. Since January 2025, Trump has repeatedly threatened Canada, not just with tariffs, but with actual annexation. He's floated the idea of making Canada the 51st state. Think about that for a moment. The President of the United States is threatening to forcibly annex another sovereign nation, and not just any nation, but our closest neighbor and ally. The result? A complete backfire. When the Canadian elections came around, polls showed the Conservative Party was poised for a landslide victory after 10 years of liberal governance under Trudeau. The Canadian public was ready for change. But then Trump started his threats. Enter Mark Carney, the new Canadian Prime Minister. He won by positioning himself as the defender of Canadian sovereignty against American aggression. And what has Carney done since taking office? He's made a dramatic pivot toward China. This is the geopolitical earthquake that's not getting enough attention. Canada is actively warming relations with Beijing. Carney just completed a highly successful trip to China, where discussions focused on expanded trade and cooperation. Why? Because when America threatens you with guns and tanks, and China offers you trade deals and partnership, the choice becomes surprisingly easy. Here's the uncomfortable truth. China is winning this geopolitical chess match without moving a single military piece. While Trump threatens allies with gunboat diplomacy, literally talking about military invasions, China has taken a completely different approach. They're offering cooperation, trade partnerships, and economic integration. And it's working brilliantly. Look at the numbers. Chinese exports exploded in 2025. Why? Because while America is threatening tariffs and territorial annexation, China is positioning itself as the reasonable alternative. They're saying to countries around the world, we just want to do business with you. We want to cooperate. It's a masterclass in soft power. The communist regime is playing Adam Smith's free market playbook better than the supposed champion of capitalism. They're not threatening anyone. They're not demanding territory. They're simply offering mutually beneficial trade. The irony is profound. Every threat Trump makes against an ally drives that ally closer to China. Every tariff threat creates another opportunity for Chinese trade expansion. Every mention of military force makes America look unstable and China look stable. From a pure geopolitical standpoint, Professor Hanke doesn't mince words. This is suicidal for the United States. At best, we're shooting ourselves in the foot. At worst, we're actively dismantling the alliance system that has underpinned American power for 75 years. Let's talk about the economic implications because threats aren't free. Trump has proposed raising the defense budget to $1.5 trillion. That's a 50% increase. What are we preparing for? If the goal is annexing Greenland and potentially threatening Canada, that requires massive military expenditure. And for what? Territory we don't need and allies we're turning into enemies? Professor Hanke, who served as President Reagan's advisor and has extensive experience analyzing government cost overruns, points out something crucial. The Department of Defense is already the epicenter of waste, fraud, and abuse in the federal government. Now we're proposing to increase its budget by $500 billion. And here's another critical point about how threats work economically. When you force someone to sign a contract with a gun to their head, whether literally or metaphorically, that contract is invalid. It's made under duress. Even if Denmark were to agree to sell Greenland under military threat, that agreement would be fundamentally illegitimate. This isn't how modern economies and nations build lasting beneficial relationships. Cooperation, trade, and mutual benefit. These are the foundations of prosperity. Threats, coercion, and force, those are recipes for instability and economic decline. Finally, let's talk about what's happening with the Federal Reserve, because it's directly connected to this broader pattern of using threats to achieve political goals. The Department of Justice just served Fed Chair Jerome Powell with a grand jury subpoena threatening criminal indictment. The stated reason: cost overruns on a building renovation project at Fed headquarters, $700 million overruns on a $2.5 billion project. But here's the context that matters. That's a 28% cost overrun. Professor Hanke, who literally wrote the book on government cost overruns, points out that this is actually on the low end for federal infrastructure projects, which typically range from 25% to 200% overruns. Defense Department procurement, even higher. So, why single out Powell? Why now? Powell himself made it crystal clear in an unprecedented public statement. This isn't about building renovations or congressional oversight. This is retaliation for the Fed refusing to lower interest rates according to presidential preference instead of economic data. Think about what this means. The independence of the Federal Reserve, the institution that controls monetary policy for the world's largest economy, is under direct political attack, not through normal channels or policy debates, but through threats of criminal prosecution. So here's where we stand. America is threatening its closest allies, pushing them toward China. We're preparing to spend hundreds of billions on military expansion for territorial acquisition we don't need. We're attacking the independence of our central bank through criminal threats. And all of this is happening while China quietly expands its influence by simply offering cooperation and trade. The pattern is clear: threats and coercion as primary tools of statecraft. And the results? Strategic disaster, economic instability, and the erosion of American soft power on the global stage. The question isn't just what happens next with Greenland or Canada. The question is, how long can the world's superpower maintain its position when its primary diplomatic tool is the threat of force against friends and allies? What do you think? Is this aggressive approach strengthening America's position, or are we witnessing a fundamental shift in global power dynamics? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more analysis on the intersection of economics, geopolitics, and policy.